What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Medical Sales Live. You know who I am. I'm your host, Omar M. Khatib. We got a good one today. I actually have slides today. I have slides. So let me go on pause or unmute myself for the people on Zoom. Welcome back, everybody. Good to see you all. So I got a great one today, and looks like my audio is working. Hey, no technical difficulties. Isn't that great, everybody? Looks like LinkedIn's doing their job. I appreciate it. Somebody is, right? All right. So as usual, what do we do when we start this thing off? Oh, I already see a comment. The music gets you pumped. Yeah, that's the whole purpose. That's the whole purpose. I'm pumped up. Are you pumped up? So now let's start with the way we always start, which is drop in the chat where you're joining in from. Right. So whether you're on Zoom or on LinkedIn or Twitter, on YouTube. So we're across all platforms today. What city are you joining in from? I always like to know. And yes, Mike Moore pointed out that, yes, the teacher was a little late today. That's true. That is true. So drop in the chat where you're joining in from. And as always, that's Michael Morales. Hey, Michael, thanks for joining. So go ahead and drop in the chat where you are joining in from. What city? I want to know. I have to know. I refuse to start. So let me introduce today's topic. Okay. So today's topic is I'm actually going to show a strategy that I used while at Potrero. And why am I going to show that? Well, if you haven't seen in the news lately, Potrero just got breakthrough designation for their predictive algorithms, right? Super exciting. And, I just need to make a comment on that. Are we done at this point with Potrero? I think that's it, because now that they've gotten that breakthrough designation, they have digitized the kidney and they essentially own it. They own that organ. That's the one thing I would say as a heuristic or a way of looking at things. If you are in investing or just evaluating companies, the moment that a company digitizes an organ that hasn't been digitized before, meaning that they digitize it in terms of the data that's coming out of it, they own that organ. Like, there's no catching up to that. Everything else is going to be like secondary to it. They own it, right? And so, in terms of like search, Google was the first to do that, to really digitize the search process. And you see how that turned out, right? Netflix was the one who really was the first to digitize streaming movies. See how that's worked out for Netflix, right? Tesla, the first to really digitize and commercialize the concept of electric cars, right? And software with it. Same thing when it comes to healthcare. So congratulations to the team at Potrero for digitizing and owning the kidney. I'm super excited with that breakthrough designation. But along there, since I haven't been in that company for 2 years, I would like to show you some of my strategies that I used when I was there to actually get deals. But before we do that, let me give a little shout out to some of the people who are joining. We got Jason Valera coming in from NYC. Vonsel is in Missouri today. Hey, Vonsel, what's up? Lisa Sullivan. Hey, Lisa, coming from Peoria, Illinois. All right, fantastic. And then over on Zoom, we got Gustavo over in Los Angeles. Clinton Whitehurst is traveling. He's in Dallas today, the great state of Texas. All right, fantastic. So with that being said, let me bring up the banner for what we're covering today. So again, here's what we're covering today. If you're in medical sales, how do you essentially drive pipeline, right? Using LinkedIn and specifically your content, because that's the one thing that a lot of salespeople ask me. They're like, Omar, I believe in this idea of commercializing using digital and LinkedIn and everything, but like, I'm not a marketing department. I can't make this stuff. I don't know how to do it. That's okay. I'm going to show you not only how I did it, but how other salespeople at Potrero did it. And I'm going to walk you through this framework. So this is, for the people who listen to this and actually implement this strategy, right? You'll see a dramatic change from your pipeline. Now, this is the one thing I mention to everybody. And this is whether you're doing medical sales, software sales, maybe you're a recruiter, doing this and translating it to your market works. Okay. So long as you have two criteria. Number one, obviously that your market is at least on LinkedIn, right? They don't have to be posting content or liking, but the fact that they're on there, right? You optimize for the time that they log in. Now, let's say you're dealing with surgeons, okay? You don't know when a surgeon is going to log into their LinkedIn. Sometimes they log in every day. Like in the orthopedic world, they're logging in every other hour because they're commenting, engaging with cases. Sometimes, let's say it's the charitable department. Maybe they log into LinkedIn maybe like once a week, right? Maybe sometimes it's once a month. And if that's the case, and I'm going to turn off some lights here just to make it a little bit better. There we go. That's better. Sometimes you don't know when that ideal prospect is going to be logging in, right? And so you want to optimize for the moment that they do log in, right? And the way that you do that, okay, is by putting out a steady stream of content, okay? The content needs to be you documenting the process, right, of adoption, because that's what every person wants to see, okay? And so let me pull up my slides here. I'm just going to pull in one extra thing, if I can find it. May not be able to find it. All right, let's see. Okay, here we go. All right, it worked. Okay, so for those who are on Zoom, I just need you guys to help me out. So when I share my screen, I just need you to confirm that you can actually see my screen. So for those who are on Zoom, just if you can comment real quick, can you see my screen? You should see a technology adoption curve. All right. Got it. Yes. All right. Fantastic. Okay. So now let's get the people over on LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter. Okay. And this time I remember that I need to shrink the size of my screen. And so here we go. All right. Okay. Perfect. Now we're talking. Okay. So let's as always, let's visit this here we go. Yes, thank you guys, I appreciate it. So let me move this thing down here. Okay. And all right, so let's cover this part. So as you guys know, if you don't know this graph, that's okay, you should. It's Jeffrey Moore's technology adoption life cycle curve. Okay, now before I show you the strategy, the reason why you need to make sure to understand this, right, is because you need to understand where your adopters sit. Okay, so if you have a new technology, they're going to be right around here, tech enthusiasts, right? What you need to understand is that every single one of these points, right? Look, and I got 2 pointers today. Here we go. So when you're over here, okay, this part of the technology adoption curve, these people have their own psychological needs when it comes to technology adoption versus over here. Okay, that's the one confusion people always have when it comes to technology adoption. They forget they need to segment this out, because what a tech enthusiast wants, right? A tech enthusiast wants a science project. They don't mind that your technology sucks. They actually don't mind that it's difficult. A lot of times, these tech enthusiasts, they appreciate when something's difficult, right? Because then they can kind of develop their own way of applying the technology, right? Versus a pragmatist over here in the mainstream market, they want everything to be working, right? Now, here's the important part, and this is why using content the right way is going to help you with things, okay? Oops, and I need to quickly rearrange a slide here. All right. Okay. So the reason why is because what somebody needs here, let's start with like a pragmatist, right? What a pragmatist is going to need is they're going to need specifically to see other adopters. That's part of it, right? Visionaries, they don't need to see other adopters, but it definitely helps. Tech enthusiasts, they just want to know it's themselves, right? So the key is, how do you track these different segments? The one thing that all of them have in common, okay, so remember the psychographics of these change, but the one psychological trait they all have in common is what? Social proof. That's something that all of these they need to see, meaning other people adopting and using the products. Okay. Now, let me show you how you get there. First of all, let's look at this funnel. Okay. This is a marketing funnel. And for the salespeople, don't freak out. I'm not asking you to do this, but it's important you understand this. Number one, because hey, when you understand more, you're able to leverage that. And number two, most of you are in marketing departments where the marketing team actually doesn't know much about marketing. They're just doing product management. So as a salesperson, you have a responsibility. If you're the person in the market, you have a responsibility to give feedback to the marketing team and tell them this is what's helpful, right? Because if you don't do that, right, what ends up happening? A salesperson is pretty much going to say one of two things: I need a new brochure or I need a new sales deck. And the problem with that is that it might very well be that you need a different sales deck, but the moment marketing delivers that, guess what? You have no other excuse. Like, you better just be crushing it, right? And that's usually not the thing that's needed. So if we look at the way a funnel's set up, right? You have your top of funnel. These are just to raise awareness. If you want to think about this in a different way, is that this, oops, here we go. Let me move my mic here. This is going to be based on your problem. This is problem aware. Okay? This right here. Problem aware means that they're aware of a pain point. Okay? So for example, if they struggle with certain type of procedure, let's say the products aren't so good, they're aware of a problem, right? They can give that problem a name. Here's something you don't want to do as a salesperson. You do not want to be selling to somebody who is unaware of the problem. That's really, really hard. Okay? Down here, let's use yellow. Down here, this is solution aware. Okay? Solution aware means that I can name the problem, I can name what the solution is. Okay? Problem: I'm really hungry. Solution: I need to get food. Okay, there's no companies involved, right? Problem: I don't own a car. I need to go somewhere. Solution: I need to call a taxi. Okay? That's problem, solution, aware. In the middle of the funnel, what are those things usually around? That's where webinars, white papers, are involved. Sometimes a product brochure, but the main thing is like, here's the problem, here's a solution. Here's the problem, here's a solution. It's very educational based. Now, the moment you get to here, this is where you become product and company aware. Okay? But to get here, you can't. This is the problem with most salespeople, and this is the problem with most marketing, is that they just focus on product and company awareness, right? You don't focus on up here, which is this is all of this up here. It's education and thought leadership. Okay. God, my handwriting's bad. Okay. So let's look at that in practical terms. Okay. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. Let me move forward. Okay. If we look at this, right? Here's a new cut. So this is all public on Potrero. I'm just sort of explaining what the strategy was back then, right? A customer adopts a new product, right? They go and do an evaluation. So this is not even a customer, actually. This is during an evaluation, right? So at the evaluation, what happens? I'll tell you what happens. Sales rep documents the process. Okay. So during COVID, right, there was a lot of issues when it comes to urine output, etc. So Potrero, we took it upon ourselves to send as many units as we can for free to hospitals to try and help support them, right? So when this went to this hospital, we showed, we took a picture with a nurse and everything, right? This was handed to marketing. Marketing posted it, and same with the sales rep. Okay. Now, where does that go? That goes top of funnel, right? You see how that goes? Top of funnel. Now, we could spend a little bit of money promoting it, but just between the salesperson, if you're connected to a bunch of people in your market and you're documenting this, that goes top of funnel, right? But then what happens at bottom of funnel, right, is that you start adding other pieces, right? So how do you engage? We send an email. We're like, hey, we just delivered these units to this hospital. Here's the post. So that new person can go and see that these units are being delivered, right? Literally, look, we have pictures just of units being delivered. Like, there's nothing fancy about this, right? But it's documenting the process, right? We show, the customers getting it. It's kind of like the unboxing period, right? Look, here we go. Another one. Just our team taking pictures with the boxes, right? As a rep, you can do this yourself upon delivery and you're in service. The whole thing is documenting. And again, here we go. The sales process is documented publicly and delighted for new customers to share content, right? So again, we ask them to take that photo, right? And this is kind of in a nutshell what I constantly try to do while at Potrero, which is documenting this process. Again, you don't need a fancy video. I mean, you don't need anything, right? And again, this is what it looks like. Now, let's see what this looks like in practice, okay? I'm going to go to LinkedIn for a second. Let me see. Does it flip? Oh, there we go. Okay. So let's go to Joe Urban's profile. Again, like, Potrero's doing very well, not by accident. Okay. So if you look at Joe Urban's profile, and again, I know Joe's the CEO, but all this content is coming from the reps, right? So let's scroll through again, like, a lot of thought leadership stuff, abstracts, etc. But if we keep going down, right? Let's take a look. I know if we get, so these are, okay, here we go, right? All this is this is a picture of the unit. There's nothing special about this, but it's storytelling, showing, like, look, do not remove, send from a newer customer last week. What is this doing? It's showing the importance of this technology, right? So again, surgeons, nurses, etc., they're going to see this. They're going to start assigning importance to this thing, right? Here's a screenshot, right? If we scroll down, let's take a look. I know that Joe has it somewhere here. All right, look, simple post, from the ICU to OR, documenting the process of adoption. Look, there's nothing unique about this, right? But again, the key is this beats out fancy, expensive marketing. Why? Over time, it's consistency, right? Why do you think Coca-Cola takes out an ad in every single commercial they can? Because they have no idea when you're going to be thirsty, right? Why does Apple, who's a $1 trillion company, it's one of the most valued brands on planet Earth, why does Apple take out billboards? They literally take out billboard ads because they're trying to stay consistent in staying in front of you. Look, here we go. Look, onboarding a new account. All this is just showing one of the reps kneeling down next to it, right? And then telling a story. What are we seeing in here, right? And so keep in mind, look, here we go. Look, delivering the devices. This is the kind of content you should be posting up. And I know for a fact, if it hasn't been asked already, right? I know some reps who work at certain companies where they're going to say, my company does not allow me to do this. You need to fight for this. You need to talk to your VP. You need to talk to marketing, and you need to get approval for these things. There's no reason why you cannot do this, by the way, right? It doesn't, and personally, it's even better if it comes from your personal profile, not the company profile. Because your personal profile, keep in mind, on LinkedIn, you're the product of LinkedIn, meaning that when you create content, LinkedIn sees that as a way for them to make money because they're going to make sure that your network stays online. When your company posts something, that's the customer of LinkedIn. So LinkedIn wants that company to pay money for this thing to go out. So look, let's take a look. This had 25 reactions. Let's look at the post itself, right? 34. So that's a huge difference. A company page having 34 or 4 likes and an individual who reshared it, which by the way, when you reshare, decreases reach, it's 25, right? Again, look, all this is document. Look, this is at a conference, right? Documenting the journey. So keep in mind, if every other day, every other week, a customer or prospective customer logs in, they keep seeing happy people and the product, happy people and the product being used in the field, the product being used in action, right? What is that doing? It is documenting a adoption process, right? And the human mind, believe it or not, I always tell people, right? What is, and let me come back here. I want to add this. What is the one thing that I harp on? I'm going to write it. To persuade, you need, what do you need? Somebody from my program, please. I do feel like a teacher today. I am a teacher, but I want to see this. Can someone tell me, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Somebody, for God's sake, type it in the chat. What do you need in order to persuade? Attention. It's very, very simple. And why do you need attention? Right? For one very simple reason. The brain gives importance to what it sees often. Okay? Now, I don't really care what your politics are. I'm not, I have no allegiance to any political party, but I spend time studying things. There's a reason why, certain politicians were able to win certain elections. It has to do with attention. You assign importance to it, whether you want to believe that or not. In order to persuade, you have to get attention. If I'm standing out in the middle of the road giving out suitcases with $1 million in them, no one's going to take the suitcase unless I can get their attention. Okay. Now, where people make the mistake on social media is thinking that means you have to come out with some viral, stupid dance video or whatever. No, a lot of it just has to do with consistency. That's the subconscious way of selling, is that if you keep showing up constantly, you gain familiarity, you gain trust, novelty. So again, like let's look at this feed, okay? Let's see if we can see some good examples of products, right? Not bad, that's okay. Ryan Serhant. For something to make my feed, it's pretty competitive because just of the network I have, and then all the people who are posting, right? But like, look, for example, Eric Bricker. Again, as a sales rep, if a sales rep does this, it would be brilliant, which is whiteboarding a process, clinical process, and teaching to it. Eric Bricker makes these fantastic explainer videos just on healthcare, topics in healthcare. It's an iPhone, a whiteboard, and he just stands there talking. Anytime I see a whiteboard, I know it's him, right? This is the value of consistency and showing up, okay? Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to see, this is why our industry is, so here's what I would say. A surgeon's going to be seeing the same thing. Look at the MedTech post. No offense to these companies, I'm sorry, but like this is basic stuff. Every surgeon is used to seeing stuff like this, but then, see, like you see something like that, that's unique, right? Wait, what company is that? I can't tell what company. But again, it's how do you stop the scroll, right? Because then you start engaging with it. See, like this post from Medtronic, that's not bad. There's nothing wrong with this, right? But you have to have more things. You have to have the documentation of the product adoption process. I can't stress this enough. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to think. See, and this is the sad part is I can't think of too many. I don't want to show anybody who's in my program because I don't know if they're going to be. I don't want to put them on blast. So, anyways, that's the main topic of today. So let me unshare my screens for those of you on Zoom. I unshared my screen, and let me go to the questions and see what questions we got. Okay, so let me go to my Google Forms, see what questions we have, and then again, for those of you who are on LinkedIn, all right, let me give a few shout outs. We got Arthur Castillo coming in from Houston. Peter Stebbins coming in from Boston. What's going on? All right. So if you have a question on LinkedIn, again, it doesn't have to be around the topic that I just discussed. Whatever question you have, go ahead and ask the question. You can drop it in the chat, or if you're feeling a little brave today, drop in the chat that you'll come on live. I'll direct message you a link. I'll bring you on the show for live. Somebody needs to take advantage of that. All right. So let me go to my members of the Medical Sales Network Effects program. So for those of you who are watching on Zoom, if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand, and I'm going to bring you on live. But in the meantime, let me go to the Google Doc and see what questions we have today. But yeah, again, I can't stress it enough. The big key here, look for ways to document the process, right? It doesn't have to be creative. One of the big brilliant minds in fashion is George Zimmer. George Zimmer is the guy who invented Men's Warehouse. The guy who says you're gonna like the way you look, right? I met George Zimmer backstage at an event many years ago, and I asked him. I said, "Mr. Zimmer, what's the key to good marketing?" And I thought he was going to tell me like creative or something, and he said, marketing with the voice. He said, marketing, there's nothing special about marketing. It's not about creativity. It's just about consistency. That's it. As a salesperson, right? Think of how empowered you can be if you know how to market, not the product. Do not market the product. Do not market the claims. All you need to market is the documentation of the journey. Hey, happy customer. Hey, look, we're delivering the product. Hey, the product has been delivered. Hey, look, our team is doing a great job shipping it out. You can ask somebody in a warehouse who's going to ship out product to you. Hey, if you don't mind, could you take a picture of the product being put in boxes? Maybe take a picture with it. Document the process, because customers love that. Why do you think some of the top brands in the world, these bespoke brands that came out of nowhere, they're now doing millions in sales? Why do you think they go through the process of, like, let's say putting on the card? Like, I ordered some gym product the other day, and in the card it said like assembled by John something, right? Personalization, it's allowing you to see the journey. So then as a company, even if you have like simple disposable products, there's a way that you can add a little bit of some interesting aspects to the company, right? How was this thing made, right? Who delivered it? All these different things. Document that process, because then as a salesperson, you're doing a few things. Number one, you're signaling to the market the process of adoption, right? You don't want to wait till the conference for customers to, prospective customers go by your booth and hear, oh, like all these people use it. You want to show that constantly. Okay. That's number one. Number two, for your team and your territory, you're also showing, this is a great way for recruiting. You don't think a junior salesperson or a salesperson in general, when they start seeing product and technology constantly being delivered, they don't get excited about that and say, I want to join that company, right? It helps with recruiting. And then more importantly, with your prospective customers, when you think about buying something, why do we buy? If you look at memetics, right, and why we buy certain things, it's usually because of desire. We desire things that other people want. And so this is a process to constantly put that thing out there so that you can create that memetic desire, right? So when more people start seeing the adoption of a product, guess what happens? They want it more. Okay? Don't wait for your marketing team to do this. They're not going to do it. I hate to say it. Unless they're going through my program, they might do it, right? But as a salesperson, you should find a way to do this. Okay? And for those salespeople, I knew this was going to happen. I already got 2 direct messages from 2 different people saying my company's not going to let me do that. What I would say is this, is if it meant whether your family was going to eat that month, I guarantee you'd do it. I guarantee you'd find a way around it. A lot of salespeople are not supposed to share certain clinical studies. They do it anyway through their personal emails. I was one of those people. I know how you guys do this. All right. Let me take a look. Clinton Whitehurst, I'm going to bring you on the show. Give me 1 second. Or not Clinton, I'm sorry, Trey. Trey, go ahead and you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little staticky. Okay, now I can hear you. Go. Yeah. Hey, okay, Trey, good. Cool. My new favorite guy. I'm going to show some of your content actually as an example.
Okay. Well, I had a question. I'm starting a new concept, as you know, and my process, we're not necessarily shipping stuff out. I was going to ask you, I have a meeting coming up Monday with a group of a board that manages several VA nursing homes.
Okay.
Do I take some pictures of that and say meeting with a board talking about?
Great question.
What we're going to put in there and then I'm doing a lunch and learn in a couple of weeks. Do I take a picture and go doing a lunch and learn?
Yeah, that's a great question. Great question. So let me answer the question. Give me 1 second. Okay. So the question is, so Trey's just for context. So Trey's the founder of a company that focuses on UV lighting. He is very fast becoming the expert and go-to thought leader when it comes to UV, lighting and infection control. Is that correct, Trey? Did I say that correctly?
That is wonderful.
Perfect. So your question is, you have a couple of meetings coming up. One is that you're doing a lunch and learn, and the second one is a board meeting, right?
Right.
Perfect. Absolutely, you should document that process. And here's the reason why. Number one, whether you're a founder or a salesperson, the meeting that you're doing, that lunch and learn, that in itself is a product, right? Somebody is going to pay for that product. They're going to pay attention. And so in order to get more people to want to buy that product of a lunch and learn with you, where they're going to pay with their attention, you have to show adoption of that, right? So one example is that, look, you're going to be there in person. Absolutely. You can ask, you can do one of a few things depending on your comfort level. Number one, you can, literally ask somebody to, if you have somebody with you, just ask them, hey, take a picture of me from the back room presenting. That's one option. The second option is you can just take a photo with the group to say, hey, I'm actually, I spend a lot of time on the road. I love showing other customers, people I meet and everything. So I want to, write about your facility here, what you guys are doing. So if we can just take a photo together. And then the last part, which is I think the easiest one, and again, this is where some people get very shy, but just I would say do it because it'll have even better reach on LinkedIn. Just take a selfie, get up, and right before you present, just kind of jokingly say, "All right, everybody, selfie." Everyone's gonna laugh, and then just snap the photo, right? And sometimes, and I've done this sometimes in a room. Sometimes they're not expecting that, right? And so sometimes they might, be like, "Oh, really? Like, are you sure?" And then you can just say like, hey, don't worry. It's only, I'm going to post it on my LinkedIn feed, and maybe ask beforehand. You can ask beforehand, hey, do you mind if I just take a photo? I like to sort of document my journey as a founder and everything. Very few people are going to say no to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm picturing it in my head. It's going to be awkward, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Just do it. Just do it. And again, here's another thing is that, for example, I see, Mike Moore on here. Mike and I recorded a podcast together a week ago, and we took a photo of us while before we started recording. A lot of times when during COVID, and I need to go back in my posts and see if I can find him. A lot of times when I would meet with a doctor or a prospective customer via Zoom, I talked to him and everything. I'd say, hey, I'm always trying to come up with content and share things I learned. I learned some interesting things here in this meeting from you about this approach or that approach. Do you mind if I take a quick, like, screenshot of our Zoom? If you can smile, I'd really appreciate it. And then I always say, and by the way, if you don't feel comfortable, you can just tell me. I don't think I've ever had anybody say no, because at the same time, other people, especially customers, they want to be seen. They want, their peers to know that they have like interesting perspectives and these kind of things. So a lot of times customers love that because nobody documents that journey. The only time people document things is like if it's a customer who's, I don't know, making the company a lot of money, right? But how often do people do that? Like, I'll tell you what, if a SaaS sales representative did a Zoom with me and then in that meeting told me, man, Omar, look, whether you might buy a product or not doesn't, I hope you do, but can I take a screenshot of you and then, just kind of share I learned some things about marketing from you. I just want to post it. That salesperson can go on LinkedIn, post that screenshot of a Zoom meeting with me and them, write down what they learned. What I'm going to do is obviously I'm going to like that post, but then any marketer who even knows me is going to see a picture of that salesperson and me. And guess what? They've now become more authoritative. They've received some social proof because they're being seen with a peer, right? That's what this game is about, is how do you lower the barrier so people can trust you sooner and faster? And how do you increase the desire to pay attention and purchase a product such as a meeting with you, a demo with you, right? Does that make sense?
That's awesome.
Got it.
That's really awesome.
Now, Trey, I'm going to keep you on. And so for those who are on the Zoom, if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. But I am going to put Trey on the spot for a second, because I do want to highlight the content you've been doing, so let me know. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. I also changed my banner. I want your thoughts on that.
You know what? I don't want to even give you thoughts on the banner. The banner looks fine, by the way, but here's the reason why. What matters most is that you're putting out content and you're continuously communicating with the market. It's not going to happen in a day. It won't happen in a week. It won't even happen in a month. But over time, when someone thinks about infection control and UV lighting, there's only one choice that's going to come to their mind. And the goal of that is that at that point, you own the market. You're not being compared to anybody. It's like, why wouldn't we go with him? Like, that guy's the expert when it comes to UV lighting. Why the hell would we not go with the guy who's literally the thought leader on this one topic, right? And so for salespeople who are listening to this right now, they need to think, let's just pretend that I'm going to use a very low tech product. Let's say a salesperson is selling disposable Foley catheters, not an exciting product. How do they become the go-to expert, the trusted source of truth for that product type, and also the issues and problems that come along with it, so that when someone needs help and they're like, who should we buy from? It's like, why don't we buy from the person who's constantly educating the market on this, right? It's so simple, right? Now, let's go through your content here. I want to highlight a few things. Again, a lot of times it's just about showing some love to potential customers and peers. So again, here you are, you're commenting on J. Darrell Hicks. So he posted this piece on infections, right? A lot of times as a thought leader, what do thought leaders do? If you go on like Fox or CNN, what are they doing? Their experts are usually commenting on what other experts are saying, like saying they agree or not, right? So that's good. The other piece, again, here we go, right? You went on a podcast, you posted it, okay? Very nicely done, okay? The one thing I would tell you to do is on your hashtags, use a few more hashtags that are going to give you more reach. So you're using the key hashtags, which is infection control, infection prevention, and healthcare. Use some other ones such as like medicine, and use something, for example, like if you're medical devices, right? You can put medical device, because let's take a look at something, for example, like let's see, I'm going to scroll up here because I know you just started going with this. So you don't have, so for example, see how this has 12 likes? No one's going to click the likes and see, well, how many of those people are actual potential customers? Nobody knows. It could be just people in your company. But that's social proof that you need, right? And so the last thing I want to show is you actually went on. So can you tell me about these videos here? Did you yeah,
I had some guys I was working with that before I did the podcast, I did a practice session with them, and they taped it, and they made this into 10 little tiny short videos.
Brilliant.
And so what I'm doing is I don't know how often to start dropping them, but I'm starting to kind of throw them out there. And there's one that's like the whole thing, but I'm just kind of using a little bits and trying to sprinkle a little bit out there. But I don't really know, should I do 1 a week, 2 a week? I don't know.
Yeah. So it's going to depend on the platform. If this was Instagram or TikTok, you should be doing like 2 or 3 a day. On LinkedIn, though, you don't want to have that high frequency. So what I would even say is, like, when it comes to videos, you can do 2 to 3 a week. For me, even I'm getting some videos done, I'm probably going to do 1 a day. And the benefit about these, the way that you want to think about this, and let me go over here. Let me add another screen, is that if you think about your content, right? So let's say this is core content. Okay, core content, and you're going to educate people on problem, solution, and then the last thing, which I recommend spending as little time as possible on it, is company and product. What people do is they always focus on company and product. Like, any idiot can do that, right? What's hard is spending the time, and this is where the gold is, educating on the problem before the solution. Okay? And the way you want to think about this is that these are like little breadcrumbs. Okay? And so if you're trying to lead somebody on, you leave these little breadcrumbs, like these short little videos, little snippets, right? Educating things, right? Because then when you do a good job of owning the problem, by default, you own the solution. And at that point, that's when you channel it towards the product and company, right? If you look at, again, I'm just getting started with things. If you look at what I do, like Trey, you're not even in, like, you're in the industry, you're in devices, but you're not a medical sales rep. How did you discover me, first of all? Let's go through that process. And now I'm going to open my playbook. How did you first discover me?
Just going through LinkedIn, trying to figure this thing out. And I had some people say you need to do a LinkedIn campaign and you need to do this sort of stuff. And I really wasn't sure. I had, like I said, I started with 1,187 followers that I worked hard to get to before I met you. And I think in the time we met, it's almost added 300 in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I noticed that.
But what I did is I saw you and I watched your video, and I thought, well, that's what I'm trying to do, and it's in the medical. I don't know how you ended up popping up, but it intrigued me enough to say, maybe this guy has some answers, because I saw you had a lot of followers, you had a lot of credibility, and it was an industry I was going into. And people were saying to do LinkedIn campaigns, and I've tried campaigns where I've spent money on campaigns, and they've not been very successful.
Right, and specifically, what you were talking about is, let me here we go. This is what you went to go see, which is my webinar, and I talked about how to book more hospital demos and influence physicians using social media. Right? Yeah. Not how to use my process, my service, my product, etc. No. And I spent the whole time, so that it's a 45-minute webinar. By the way, for those interested, just go to my profile and look at the feature section. It's 45 minutes. 40 of the minutes, or probably 35 to 40 of the minutes, is just me educating you about the problem, the solutions, the data, etc., gaining that trust and authority. The very last part is where I talk about my program, And then you booked a call, right? What was the pitch or the offer to book the meeting? Do you remember?
Well, you said you'd help me, right off the bat, you'd help me with my web, give me some advice on some stuff.
Exactly.
I had no idea what I was doing. And literally most of the phone call, you gave me really good content on stuff to do, I mean, you didn't just say you're going to do something. You actually gave a lot of really good advice and content and stuff I had no idea about. And so it made me be more apt to say, oh, he gave all this to me just for talking with him. And it wasn't a high pressure thing, but I did tell you I wanted to think about it for 24 hours.
Yeah. And then you messaged me like literally 5 minutes later and you're like, no, I just wanted to make you sweat. No one ever did that to me. I love that. But here's the key, again, like, and you're doing the right thing, Trey. The only thing I would say is just keep doing it, be patient. And you definitely are. And I'm really saying this for other people watching. So look, here's the process, right? You came to watch education on the problem, right? There's the webinar.
Mm-hmm.
That moved into what? A one-on-one call, right?
That you gave advice on.
Exactly.
Give you something. Like you talk about adding value when you come to do a meeting with somebody, which is something I've thought a lot about here recently. That's why I'm doing my lunch and learn.
Yeah, exactly. And then over here, that's when you finally end up, we end up with a sale of the product, right? We can call it product adoption. Okay. But here's the key, and you're doing all the right thing, is that all of this is the most valuable thing you can do. You know why? When you go and let's say you enroll in, let's say an MBA program, or you go to graduate school, which is very expensive. On day one, you just spend all this money to go to school. They're already telling you, oh, you got to buy these books, you got to buy this and everything. What does everybody do? They just buy it. It's not and you go to the university bookstore to buy it. Why? It's because you're in an educational environment and not a sales environment. And when people are in an educational environment, they're more open to learn. They're more receptive to things, because the moment you feel like you're on a sales call, you naturally start putting up your defenses. And more importantly, this entire process, from you learning about your problem and naming it, to then getting educated to it, to the call with me, all of this, right? The only time that I spent with you was on this, I think, 30-minute call. But you had all this time on your own, educating yourself, all these things. And I was the one guiding you throughout the entire process. So by the time you came here, I'd established the trust. I'd established the authority with you, right? And so that's why I always tell people, every call I get on is not a sales call. It's a closing call. And you're doing the exact same thing. So this lunch and learn, all these things, I would even say, I mean, if you could use your iPhone and prop it up in the corner and even record, the more content you get, the better. And again, let me come back to here, just so that people on LinkedIn can see, right? And yeah, by the way, your banner is better, okay? You're on the right track. You're on the right track. But I will say, I mean, look, I don't want you to worry about the banner, but like I did notice, like you're here. Let me come down here. Your main brand colors are like this nice yellow that pops. At some point later on, get a graphic designer for a couple $100 and have them design something very specific to that brand so it looks even sharper. It looks good right now. You can have no banner, but you're putting out content. And what I love, and this is what I tell CEOs, founders and everything, you can record something like this and have somebody drop in these things. You don't have to wait to get on a podcast. Have somebody record you for an hour, ask you questions, and you answer questions, educating the market on the problem, right? And then you put them out in short form videos. Now, for those who are going to say, oh, I don't want to pay a videographer, blah, you don't have to. The videos that I have on my channel, and let me, for proof, I'm going to go to Instagram real quick. All right, let me flip this over. Okay. All these videos, let me go to the video side. With these videos you see up here, like 4,000 views, 500, right? this is taken with my iPhone, right? This is taken with my phone at home, right? So the quality of the content, like the visual quality, doesn't have to be like high resolution. It just has to be good quality content, and that's how you start educating a market. You drive product adoption and everything. So the last thing, Trey, I'll share with you, and let me come back and see if we have anybody else who has raised their hand. The last thing I would say for you is that in your journey as a founder, educating the market on the technology you have, make sure that along the way you get an order, you get as much content as possible, shipping the product out to the customer, or the customer getting it, the customer being happy, maybe follow up in a month or two. The more you focus on celebrating and promoting the customer, the more you'll get of them. This is why Nike, if you think about what is, people always say like Apple has the best marketing, and they really do have very good marketing. Steve Jobs looked up to Nike. And the reason why he looked up to Nike is that what Nike does is that in every commercial, you do not see them promoting a product ever. What do? They promote the customer, which is celebrating great athletes. That's what you got to do. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I wrote down a bunch of stuff that you wrote today as you've been
perfect
talking, and this has been, awesome stuff.
Absolutely. Franco, you're coming up next. Trey, thank you so much. Keep up the great work out there. And if you're not following Trey Whitehurst, make sure to follow him on LinkedIn, okay?
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Trey.
I got to run. I got another meeting I got to get to.
All right. Good luck. See you later.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. All right. Let's perfect. All right, Franco, you are next. Let me bring you on. All right, Franco, how you doing? Whoops. I accidentally disabled talking there. Okay, now you're back on. Now you can talk. Good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, Omar. Yeah, really great stuff tonight. I'm, as you know, I'm in the final rounds of interviews with a company in a role that I really want to win. Really want to win. So I was curious to hear what your best talk track was to ask for the job.
Got it. That's a great question. Let me write that out. Interview question. How to close and get the job. Okay, great question. I love interview questions. So, tell us just for context for people who are listening. Give us a little bit more about the job. As much as you can. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. Just for context for everybody. So you're in the final round, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's between myself, I believe, and between 3 other candidates, potentially 4. I was told from the recruiter that I'm in the top 2 between myself and another candidate for the role. So, I've done a bunch of diligence. I've created a 30-60-90. I'm finishing up a slide deck on what it takes to succeed in the role, providing insights in the market, providing insights on, the different aspects of the job that I can bring, the different skill set I can bring. So really, I wanted to be able to kind of tie all that in, at the end of the interview, and really, ask them that powerful question about: is there any, is there a reason why you wouldn't be able to give you this role, or for me to win? So I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on like the best way to tee that up. Tee that question up.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, let me. So I like using this whiteboard now. It makes it a little bit more visual. Let me whiteboard something out for you. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna share my screen. So before I share my screen, here's the most important thing you have to know. The interview process, again, what's funny about a lot of these things, I really believe in first principles and foundational things, because then it's applicable to anything. So just like when you're trying to drive product adoption, you're trying to drive adoption of a product, which is hiring Franco right? Because it's the same thing. They have a problem. They're looking for a solution to purchase or hire to solve said problem, right? Now, the most important thing is controlling and directing people's attention and what they should focus on. What you should never do, whether it's with a product or yourself in an interview, is prime a question about why they would not adopt or buy, right? Now, there's a way to approach that because again, you're looking, for potential objections, etc. That's perfectly fine. So in an interview situation, what you have to always do, and I always mention this, is that as early as you possibly can in an interview, you need to ask the interviewer, and it might be a little bit late for where you're at now. Do you have any more calls with them, by the way? Oh, Franco, you might be muted. Yes, Franco, you're muted. Okay. Franco's muted. I think he might have just stepped aside.
Sorry.
Oh, there you are.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry, I had some sound issues there. My bad.
No worries, no worries. Do you have any more interviews or calls with them?
Yes, my final interviews are Sunday because the leadership team is in town here in Boston.
Is it a panel interview?
So they've kind of kept it kind of hush about what we're going to do and how we're going to interview, but I'm assuming that there's going to be myself, the hiring manager, and probably at least one or two other members of the leadership team.
Okay, and so
like CEO and director, global director of sales, etc.
So it's this may or may not happen because it's a panel, but it's very likely that this will come up. So number one is you want to control the interview. Okay, this is how you control it. Okay, no matter what interview you're in, at least every interview I've been in, panel or individual, they will all start the interview with the same question. What question do you think that is? What question do you always get at the beginning of the interview?
Something about yourself?
Bingo. Nope, that's it. Or what?
Why should we do this role? What's separates you from the other four or the three candidates?
Got it. So let's start with the first one. Just tell me about yourself, and we'll handle the second question, which is if they're that aggressive and it's like, why should you get the role? I'll tell you how to handle that question. The tell me about yourself question is the most important question ever. Me understanding this concept by accident 10, 12 years ago is what got me. This is the first sale I ever had in my life. Selling myself into a US-based medical school when I had the lowest MCAT score. And the result was not only I got an academic scholarship. How the hell did I do that? I knew for a fact that they were going to bring up my MCAT score. Just like I mentioned to you, you should control the interview so they do not focus on a reason to say no and a reason why you're not a fit. That happens, you're in a bad situation. So how do you control that? When they say, tell me about yourself, I thought if I presented them with such a compelling, 30-second pitch on myself, I would address what makes me a great fit for the role and some interesting points about me that are so interesting that unless it's a robot, they're going to ask about it, right? Because at that point, you can answer the question about yourself so confidently. And the whole thing about these interviews is energy and everything. You don't want to come off needy and everything. Because if you start off the interview, tell me about yourself, like, oh yeah, I worked at this company and I'm from here and that's it. And then they're like, great, let's just get into double jeopardy where we ask you random questions that you have no idea whether you're going to know it or not. That's how interviews fail. So when they ask you, tell me about yourself, this is a tell me about yourself. You need to focus on your background, where you're from, right? Some qualities and characteristics about you, some wins in your career, and then translate that to what they're wanting, right? So for example, my tell me about yourself when I was applying to be a marketing manager. So I'm going to go way back when I didn't have anything to show for. This is my tell me about yourself. Yeah, my name is Omar Khatib. I'm from El Paso, Texas. I grew up on the U.S.-Mexican border. First generation American. My dad's from Iraq. My mom's from Turkey. Dad was a general surgeon, and I was very, very into very much admired my father. And I ended up studying pre-med and went to medical school for a couple of years. I ended up dropping out. I did, cold calling and selling for about a year. It really humbled me, really taught me the value of having a positive attitude, having a sales process, and more importantly, how do I do things that actually persuade? And from there, I worked at, a robotics company. I took on a marketing manager role. And, what I really focused on is how do I drive product adoption without talking to surgeons? And more importantly, how do we do this at scale, right? That was all I had to show for back then, right? So as you can see, there's so many things in there that qualify me for the role, but also tell them about my characteristics and qualities. For you, like you are a bodybuilder, mention that, right? This is all about differentiation, right? Because at that point, yeah, they're going to ask you like, oh, that's interesting. Like you're a bodybuilder. Oh, you're from this city. Oh, you went to this college. Oh, you did this. And you can play on that because at that point, right? Then you position, this is the most important part about the interview. When they say like, oh, tell me about this or whatever, you can have a short answer. And then this is the control. This is the Jedi master persuasion trick. You ask the interviewer or interviewers and say, hey, I'm really looking forward to the questions you have for me. I have some questions for you as well about the company, but if you don't mind, there's something I really wanted to make sure I asked now. And that's what specifically about my background made you interested to have me interview for this role? And how do you think that's going to help with the problems that you're trying to solve? However you frame that question, the moment you do that, guess what they're going to do? In their mind, they're going to do two things. They're going to start looking for reasons why you're a fit. And at the same time, they are picturing you in the role. Because if you think about why you're a good fit, they're going to think about why you'd be good. It's like, hey, I need to go from here to San Francisco. Why should I use a Ferrari? Not only going to look for reasons for why, I'm going to picture myself driving the car. And now you've got them to do thinking past the sale. Does that make sense? Yeah. At that point, you're coasting. Okay. And let's just assume that they're really aggressive and they ask you this question right away. Hey, why would you be a good fit for this role? That's when you got to slow it down and you say, that's a great question. Let me answer that. But, in answering that, would it be okay if I give you a little bit of my background that'll help answer that question? They're going to say yes. And so asking for that permission, right, is going to be key. Those are the things. Now, Franco, this is very important what I tell you next. Do you want this job with this company?
Yes, I do.
Okay. That's a risk. And here's the reason why. Like anything else in life, whether it's negotiations or interview, the person who wants it least has the leverage and power. If you go into this interview really excited, you really want this job, it's going to come off in that interview. No matter how good you are, I've screwed up interviews myself where the company really wanted me, but I really wanted to be at that company and it came off in that interview. You don't want that.
Yeah.
So to trick
it's just the strong energy, right? You don't want that.
Exactly. So to trick your brain, and I tell this to everybody, until you got ink on paper, I even say like until you like start the job, never stop interviewing, never stop applying. So I would just between now and your next interview, aggressively apply to jobs. Apply for roles you are not even interested in, just so your brain gets the energy of like, oh, we're getting interviews. Oh, we're doing this and that. You have to confuse the brain because if it's only one interview, your brain is going to put a survival mechanism on that and say, if we don't get this, we're going to die. Make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. And this is where, over time you get better about this.
I was working on question and answers and really obviously working on not the filler words, using those. So like kind of slowing it down, obviously not coming across like that, bringing that energy, right? To my answers and to my, mannerisms, etc. So in the head. And
here's the other key. Granted, no matter what, you can't prevent them asking you like a question where you got to think through. I mean, that's just going to happen in an interview. But the more you control it, the better. And a lot of times you can win interviews by the quality of questions you ask, right? So go look at their job description. You'll be able to tell the key responsibilities. Like ask the recruiter, what are the 2 or 3 reasons why this person's being hired? Like what problems are they solving? Then when you go to the interview, you can ask them about those right? By asking these questions, you're kind of setting up your ability to answer things that you already know about, right? So like, for example, if you find out those 2 or 3 things that you're being hired for to solve, you can ask them like, hey, based on this revenue goal, is it more important for, all things being equal, is it more important to get some key accounts, 2 or 3 key accounts that, let's say, they're big customers, but they hit that revenue goal? Or is it more important for you to get 15 or 20 smaller accounts? They're just doing, driving utilization, but because there's a lot of them, we hit the revenue goal. Like, which one of those things are more important, right? Now you're controlling the interview, right? It's like you're impressing them with your questions. So they'll say, for example, the CEO might say, yeah, actually, we want 2 or 3 key accounts. Really? That's interesting. Why is that? Why is that? They'll answer it. And if you study this, right, then you can add like an additional point to it. So you can say, let's say they say we want 2 or 3 key accounts. Interesting. Why do you want only 2 or 3 accounts? Is it because you're looking for KOLs that are going to move the market, or is there a specific reason why you want 2 or 3 accounts? Are there specific ones? Now it's a conversation, right? Mm-hmm. What you don't want is to be going in and doing a song and dance, because that tune may not be a tune you know how to dance to, right? That all being said, Franco, you can do all of this, and like I had an interview. Like this is why, personally, no offense to engineers, I think some engineers make great marketers, other ones don't. I went and interviewed with a company that all their marketing team was former engineers, and the engineer asked me this stupid question about like a hypothetical. It's like a math problem. Like what, like who I was like, the answer is who cares, right? Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I personally recommend. And again, in your study up to that point, what I would go spend time doing, go read their clinical papers, go see if there's any social posts. If the CEO, I guarantee the CEO's got at least a few videos online, some articles. Read those things.
Yeah, I've watched a couple. So I understand what their revenue targets are for 2026, and like what their strategic objectives are. So yeah, so I was, when I got off the call here, it's been the rest of the night doing that kind of work.
Good. Good.
And then I have, like I said, my slide deck on what it takes, to be the director of business development role needs, which is vision, creativity, courage, right, and growth mindset in terms of learning, understanding, and kind of being adaptable to a different sales environment, which is be more project sales driven than it is like a product. I'm not going to be selling a product. I'm going to be providing a solution, or providing solution for to achieve an outcome for med device companies. So that's a little different. So it's going to take some learning on my part. So I'm going to be listening a lot more than I'm going to be talking.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the role, throughout the role. So those are the things I'm going to highlight. Stuff that's going to set me apart.
And here's the other thing is that, like, there's a temptation to go through like whether it's responsibilities or keys that they want. Don't do that. So again, it's just like selling a product. When you do that, guess what you're doing? You're selling. Exactly. Yeah. See, man, you know this, man. Exactly. You're gonna get this job. You're gonna get this job. Yeah. The thing that you need to, and let me just see. I think for those who are on LinkedIn, if you have a question, just drop it in the comments. And those who are on Zoom, of course, just raise your hand. Here's the big thing that I would say, Franco, is from today. And again, a lot of this is mindset and energy. What you have to meditate on today, every night, you need to envision yourself walking in that interview, as much detail as possible. People excited for you. They want you badly. You have to do that so that your brain feels like at ease. And then every day, what you should reflect on is say, this company is giving me the role. They're going to send me an offer. And let's assume that offer is like a lot more money than you would have really wanted, right? Like it's a surprise even. But you got to stay at this company for the next 5 years. So let's just pretend I'm a magic genie. Franco, you got the role. You're going to be getting $500,000 salary, right? And stock options and everything. It's everything you want. but you have to stay at this company for the next 5 years. You can't even quit, So you got to stay here at this company for 5 years. If that's the case, then the next thing you're going to think of is, well, I better ask every question that's important to me to make sure that this is the right company to go to, right?
Yeah, correct.
So,
Correct.
so don't be afraid to ask those questions. Look, Mike Moore is a recruiter. He's on this call. I'm sure he would agree with me. If it's important, you're like me, you have a family. If it's important to know, hey, what's your policy when it comes to employees? If you have to take time, like with your family, right? How does that work? Ask those questions, right? Hey, like for me, when I went to Potrero, I was very straight up with Joe Urban. Hey, Joe, I personally like writing a lot of articles. I create a lot of content. I'm very public. I like to go give talks. Is that going to be a problem? Am I gonna be supported to do that, or am I going to be getting a call every other week from you or some board member complaining about that? Because if that's the case, I can't work here. I was that direct with him, right? So that's what I recommend that you do as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome,
Yeah.
Franco. You're going to do great.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Absolutely,
Really appreciate
man.
it,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Best of luck.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. All right. Well, we are way, way, way over time, but that's okay. I love the show. I love helping you. And I'm impressed. We still got a good amount of people watching on YouTube and LinkedIn. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here. Thank you so much for joining. For those who are in my program, thank you again. It's great to be back. And if you're interested to learn more about the Medical Sales Network Effects program, here's how you can learn. Go ahead and just go to my profile, right? And go straight down to the featured section. I have a free webinar training that's going to teach you about digital medical sales. Whether you're a CEO fundraising or a medical sales rep trying to sell remotely, or let's say you're just trying to get a job and you're trying to figure out how do you leverage yourself. Watch that webinar. I give my best stuff away for free. Well, the best stuff you got to pay for, but I'll tell you what, my free stuff is going to feel like it's a crime that it's free. Go check out that webinar. And if you like it, there's an option to actually book time directly with me to give you a free profile consult. I've done over 83, 84 of those this year. Love doing them. Love helping people. So with that being said, have a wonderful evening. Look forward to seeing you all next week. Bye for now.